Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Practicing My Way Back. We're a bit behind, well not a bit behind, we had a week off owing to the power gods or the weather gods or the power and weather gods. And state of Maine got clobbered by a pretty big storm last week, so we were out of power for about 5 days. So that was interesting. Before I get going into that and what I wanted to talk about this week, I wanted to send out a huge thank you to RG Nestor. RG is the educational director of the Maine Arts Commission, and she did a wonderful and inspiring blog post about me and my challenges in trying to find my way back through to playing. And it was a real honor to me to see that, and I really appreciate the support that she's shown me. Not only through this period, but even before that, she's been so helpful, and she's such a great resource, and we're very lucky to have her in state. You should check out her blog, which is right here at NE Arts. Secondly, Chris Rogers, thank you very much for that note you sent me. I've known Chris many, many years. We played together in bands, and it was a real treat and really nice to hear from you. Again, very inspiring and motivating. Finally, Kays de Groot, thank you very much. We had an excellent conversation via the internet after my last post, which is kind of where I want to pick up again. Kays goes into the name of Roof Hair, right there, on SoundCloud. And does some really interesting compositions. He's very resourceful. He's a great guitar player, and I strongly urge you to check out his page. Anyway, after last week's post, which was about blind practice and doing scales blind, he said, "What about improvisation? How would that work?" And I thought about it, and I gave him we had a nice little chat about it. The upshot of it was, I think blind improvisation practice is an amazing thing to do, because not only does it avoid that trap that I mentioned in the last video, where if you do something that you didn't intend to do, the eye kind of remembers that, and you wind up at cross purposes, like the pathway of what, it's not a mistake because it's just improvisation, but that pathway is reinforced and you may not want it to be. So closing your eyes and letting your ear guide you is a much more effective way, especially for improvisation. And I got to try some of that this week with the power out. Eventually this studio, as the sun goes down, gets very dark, and by around 8 o'clock it's pitch black. So a couple times I sat down and I played a tune I knew really well. It was a tune I recorded with my band some years ago. And I just let my ear tell me where to go. And I consciously tried to hear what notes I was going to play. It was a really interesting experience. And that's really where I think where you want to go with improvisation is allowing your ear to guide you. Is a wonderful way to discover new resources that you didn't realize you had, and new ways of doing things. Because no matter how hard we try, it's hard as a pianist not to see the patterns on the keyboard. You know these certain patterns work. They become comfortable, and it's like a pair of jeans. You don't want to throw them out. But sometimes it's important to. Sometimes it's important to just let yourself go into that otherworldly area of the unknown. If you are an improviser, you can try this at any point. You just pick a tune that you have memorized and you know pretty cold. Lay it down on the keyboard, turn the lights off, and go. And go slow, and just try and hear your way through it. Hear different things. I guarantee you will not regret it. If you are not an improviser and you would like to try this, and I strongly recommend that you do, because good hearing is always beneficial, right? If you're not an improviser, it's very simple. Left hand, C, D, E, F, G, set, below, right there. Take your right hand, starting on middle C, C, D, E, F, G, and you may recognize this as, the most basic starting position that I've taught to you, right? So what you'll do, one of the things you can do, because there are any number of things, and I'll not spoil your creative imagination here, but one good way to start was to try this as a starting point. Play a single note in your left hand. Say, start with the C. Start with a low note. And then play a few notes in the right hand to respond to that. Then play your next note. Play the D. And you can either play exactly what you just played, which was that, right? Or you can play something different. Sometimes it's fun to play the exact same thing over and over for a number of reasons. You start to hear how the context can change and how the same line can actually take on a different meaning with a different bass note. So that's interesting. It's also good to, when you're practicing this with your right hand, or whichever hand is the dominant line hand, right? Sometimes it's helpful to make that a condition. Say, I'm going to play the same thing with my say right hand every time. That's going to force you to to play a line that's distinct enough and easy for you to remember. So it's going to work those memory muscles in addition to the hearing muscles. Anyway, that's one thing you can do. You can expand on that to just say, okay, I'm going to play 2 notes in the left hand, or just random 1-note patterns in the left hand. Just not necessarily linearly. There's a million different things you can do with it. The most important thing is to try not to plan it. I mean, you can plan conditions, like I said, we're going to play linear, going to do this or whatever. But really try and force yourself to hear it. At first, you may need to just kind of pick away until you find things that you like how they hear. And it's like, okay, once you find that, that's a great resource. You can remember that and imitate that. And then ultimately, you want to turn the lights off and just practice that blind. Whatever you do, whatever thing you choose to do, pick something that's simple and rudimentary enough that it's easy for you to memorize and you don't wind up fighting against the form of the tune while you're trying to work on this. This is a really super simple exercise. So, that's what I have. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And work hard and have fun. I'll see you next week.